Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Self Leadership Lab, a space where we explore self leadership and help develop our skill of showing up from others. Today, I'm very, very excited. I've got Dorota Kosiorek on the call. Let me tell you a little bit about Dorota, and then we'll get into the interview. So, Dorota is a recovering overachiever who now coaches high performers using neuroscience and identity work. After realizing that her hard driving habits were working against her biology, she learned to rewire her brain for clarity, confidence, and ease. Today, she helps ambitious leaders build calm authority, strong boundaries, and a mindset that works with the brain, not against it. Welcome to the show, Dorota. How are you today?
Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm very well, very well. Thank you for having me. I hope it's gonna be an exciting conversation for both of us.
Yeah, no, I know in our pre-conversation, you have a lot of things that I'm very interested in. So let's start off a little bit by talking about the brain work that you do and your theory and how you developed where you're at today.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I started a lot with working on my own, mindset and the way I've been thinking, and I've been growing in across my career. Because I started off in consulting, and I spent there around 10 years, in a very high-paced environment. But I knew that's not really. It just didn't feel right, work this way. So, somehow there was a coincidence that I got a really interesting offer, and that was in the moment when I was, questioning the way the corporate system works. And that shift helped me change a lot in my life, and also got me interested into neuroscience and topics. So I started reading more, exploring more, exploring visualization, exploring how athletes are training their mind for like that success, because there's a lot of talented people, and then usually if you look at those like top tier athletes, then the one who has the most not controllable mindset, but who actually how to manage their thinking and mental approach is the one that is winning. So I got interested into that. And it helped me shift a lot how I look at the career. I've been shaping myself, but also how the whole, corporate world functions, and how we work, how other people work, how everything interacts with our thinking. And that was basically the start for me to, start learning and studying about this. And then as I was coaching a team that I worked with. I still work at the startup that I joined 5 years ago, and I'm leading a team of high achieving individuals that many of them are coming from corporate world. Working with them, and then starting working with external clients, help me go through that period of analyzing patterns, understanding what is blocking those people from, taking the first and second step in other directions. And in the end, after, analyzing dozens of people, but also, doing a bit of my own research, I put together my own framework for coaching that is basing on 5 pillars that are most common blockers or elements needed for high achievers to, take their performance to the next level. And from just achieving a lot, going to that level where you are able to keep your level of success, but also enjoy it truly.
Yeah. Why do you think high achievers particularly have this kind of mindset block and this cognitive block to what they're doing? Because on the outside, it looks like they're overachieving, hence the name, right? Why do you think that is? What have you found that's interesting, particularly with high achievers?
I see a couple of recurring items. One of the pattern is that when you are a high achiever, it's very important for you to keep that external status of, okay, I'm the best or I'm on top, and then you don't want to lose it. So you are often willing to sacrifice a lot to keep that happening, to keep that level, and you keep just doing more. It might be external circumstance, so other people or the system that is maybe using it or even abusing it sometimes, and then giving you more and more. And then because you don't want to say no, you don't want to look like, okay, that person just, okay, maybe they are not as good as they think because, I'm asking for this and they cannot do that. So keep doing this. So one thing is just not to lose that external status of whatever people are thinking. Another thing is that they are often thinking that if they stop or if they pause for a minute, then they might miss on something. So something might change. It might change. Maybe someone will take their place. So it's hard to stop because you have to keep going because there are people chasing you, or expectations are growing. Sometimes your own expectations. You lose the reference points, and you keep thinking that your high achievers level, it's just a standard.
Yeah. Yeah. I know I personally, and for my listeners know my story, but, I kind of got to this whole thing a little different approach than you, but I was finding that, I guess I'm a high achiever because people tell me that, but at the same time, I was doing it so much for this external validation, like you mentioned, doing what you might miss out on something, or you need to maintain this status in someone else's eyes. And along the way, I lost the view of what I wanted. Do you find this common in the people that you're coaching and you're working with?
Yeah, that's a good point because it's really connected to us starting a journey of, okay, I want to get to this level because I want to X, Y, Z in life. Sometimes it's related, to providing for family, I know, traveling the world or whatever, right? You can have different why behind that. So we keep working towards something, and then at some point you actually achieve your goal. But you're not even thinking about it because the more you have, the more you want. So your enough is just keep going. And then it's like kind of addiction also from that either external validation or, having more, experiencing more. So you just keep chasing next level and forget to enjoy what you actually wanted to get. Again, if it's financial stuff, then you probably can get enough to go to the dream family vacation or get a house or something, but you just keep wanting more. Okay, so if I already got to that level, I want maybe more, and I just can get another promotion and get there. So I think that's a really good point that you are saying. We just forget the original why, and we keep chasing the financial success or the success that is associated with money. I think it's very common nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting that you said replace the why or lost the why. I know that was certainly true for me because the why got lost and then I lost sense of myself. And then that led to all kinds of things, depression, anxiety, all of this that I could have avoided had I just taken a pause and identified my why. Because sometimes you get, you hear the term the rat race. Well, you get caught up in that rat race and you're chasing this horizon. And you know what they say, you never will catch it because the horizon's always moving. And not only that, a lot of times the expectations we set on ourselves early in life, their expectations, and we have we will limit them in most cases. So we get to the point that we always wanted to be, and we realize there's so much more, and then there's so much more beyond that, and so much more beyond that. So I do find that getting your mindset and the mental clarity there really helped me, and I'm sure it's helped a lot of people. And so let's talk a little bit about your framework that you run people through. And I know I even took one of your initial assessments, and we can talk about that and use me as an example. So you got my permission to put my stuff out there in the world because I'm an open book and I want people to learn from me. But explain it a little bit, and then we'll dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, happy to do so. So I call it Elite Mind Assessment, and it is a little bit about assessing your current state of mind and how you approach life and career and business. Like it's a combination. It's not like business assessment, it's not career assessment, it's not only life assessment. And there are 5 pillars of that. So it starts from word elite, right? And then it's not like a step-by-step approach. There's more 5 pillars and elements that from my research are areas that are the most common blockers for high achieving people to get to that next stage. And by defining them, I aim to assess people which pillar is their weakest pillar, and then so they can start working on getting to the next level by addressing their weakest pillar.
Yeah.
And then we can, redo assessment and just take it and see, okay, what has improved here? And maybe there was going to be another pillar that requires a little bit of work to get them to the next level, so we can work on that. So that's the whole concept on how it works. Rather than walking through step by step, it's more, okay, let's see what's the most challenging problem or blocker for you right now, and let's focus on that so that we can unlock you faster. And we have 5 elements, right? So the first pillar is explore. It's about awakening. We can call it about, auditing your own identity. And this is related to values. So we're going to look at values and try to understand that why behind. So something we just discussed, just try to understand what people actually want in life and assess it. How does it really, relate to what I'm doing now? Is my job, my life, or whatever even related to that aspect at all? Or maybe I kind of started doing something that it's totally misaligned with what I value in life. And that should be, really important element of reassessing that. The second pillar is, I call it liberate, and it is related to subconscious reprogramming of your mental patterns. So in here, we are talking about people who has some limitations that they created in their own head. Often it's coming from childhood patterns or people we observed or the way we maybe started career and, first mentors, first bosses show us something. And this is creating some specific mental patterns that then makes you behave on autopilot in different situations. So that pillar is about understanding what are those limitations that you are just putting on yourself and step by step working through rewiring them. It might be, that someone is not feeling good enough, or, okay, I'm never gonna be good at managing people, right? So, if you keep thinking that, then that's gonna become your reality. First, we have to realize that this is the mental pattern you have, and then we're gonna rewire it, changing that, okay, I'm not good at managing people yet, right? But then what I can do to change that, right? What's the first small step I can do? How I can exercise, what training I can take, how I can gather feedback to become better. So, that's the second element. The third one is integrate. And this one is about being self-confident. So it's not really about, showing up confidently externally, but about you feeling that, okay, I know what I can do, right? And I know I can achieve stuff. And again, here we're gonna work with people on how to build that self-confidence. The fourth pillar is transcend, and it's about setting boundaries, which is very common for high achievers. That what I mentioned at the beginning, you want to keep doing, so you don't want to lose your momentum, you lose your status, so you will never say no, right? But boundaries are essential for you to be able to manage to, define your enough, what's the most important. And the last pillar is about embody, so just, experiencing and enjoying that, I call it purposeful high life. So, you're successful, but then how to maintain it, how to find joy in it, and how to continue that. So this is concept of my 5 elements. And then when we do assessment, there's 25 questions related to those pillars, and depending on the answers, you can be categorized as different archetype. And then one archetype is gonna be an equivalent of the pillar that you need to work the most on. In your case, you got the legacy builder archetype. So the legacy builder is showing that your weakest pillar was the last one, related to purposeful high life. So basically how to enjoy that life, how to maintain it, how to make it, as a long term, purposeful and driven life. And through the assessment, you actually get results across all your pillars, right? So you are getting results at referencing to the other high achievers that has been taking this assessment, and then where are they placed and how you're placed versus them, and also what's your general pillar assessment. And you're getting some tips or ideas on how you can grow your performance in every pillar. So if we I'm scrolling a little bit through your results so you can discuss it. In the first pillar, the explorer, about your values and your identity, you got 85%, which is high result because it's higher than 3/4 of high achievers who's kind of taken the assessment. But because it's not 100%, then you got some growth tips that you can do. And one of the examples is applying 10-10-10 test on the decisions that you're taking today. So let's say you're taking decision about, okay, should I go and work with client XYZ that is just, maybe, they want to work with me. And then maybe there's something about that decision that is not fully aligned. So then, we're going to assess it, like, how would you feel by working with that person? Like, will it matter in 10 minutes, in 10 days, 10 months, 10 years, right? So, you can assess your decision through that pillar. And this is a little bit reference to your values, because if you start thinking about the values, then decisions are important to be, look at through your values. And you're not gonna always remember your values and here is my list, I'm gonna validate that, but you have simple exercise that can help you do it anytime. So with any small decision, okay, should I be upset at that driver who just passed in front of me on a red light or did something? Like, will it matter in 10 minutes? Probably not. By that time you're gonna forget about it. But if it's something bigger, then it might matter, and then might be important for you to look at this a little bit closer.
Yeah. I like this, and I can definitely see that, and especially in this growth that I'm in now, in this development period I am. Sometimes I don't really look at the impact because my desire is to help so many people. Sometimes I do, like you said, that whole 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years analogy is really good because it lets you look at something. Something I really found interesting in the assessment that I took, that the key blocker said that I had perfectionism equals in delay. And it says, I'm waiting for the perfect conditions, which stalls momentum and erodes confidence. And, I do find that very true a lot of times, because there is a lot of perfectionism in what I try to achieve, in my work life. And then when I'm trying something new, hence this podcast and this new writing avenue I'm going down, it really does. And I tell you what, the best advice I ever got was just put it out there. Just go out there and do it, because it's not going to be perfect. And if you listen to any great podcasters, any writers, and you read their very first or their first 20 episodes or whatever, it's not great, but the key is you got to keep doing it. So I'm not surprised I scored high in this one. But I like these little reminders and the growth tips that you provided, because it gives me something to think about. But again, since this was one of my higher categories, it's probably not where I need to put the most focus and work on. So yeah, I do like it. And for those at home, we're going to put the link in here. You can take this assessment yourself on the website link that Dorota has. And it's I should have started with this, but it's a really fantastic work that you've done. And something specifically I like before we go to the next element. You put in the neuroscience behind it. You talk about how the brain works. So if you're someone like me who's really interested in that, it's there. If you're someone who's interested more in like the actions and the behaviors, it's there. It's a very comprehensive and a very short, concise fashion that she provides you. And then, of course, if you want to explore this more, I'm sure Dorota is there to set up calls and work with you. But it's a fantastic assessment. So before we continue, I just want to encourage everyone, go and at least take this assessment, because a lot of these things I knew about myself, but to see it on paper based on the answers I took to questions is really kind of cool and giving me a path to work forward. So, unless you have anything else, let's talk about the deliberate category.
Yeah. No, like it is something, when you see something in the writing in front of you, then you start thinking about it. So that's why those even simple quizzes can be sometimes eye-opening and just drag you towards some action.
It exposes things we know, but seeing it and hearing it and looking at like the actions, because a lot of times we know, like, hey, I know sometimes I'm too perfectionist, but how do I fix it? Well, you say, oh, don't be as dogmatic about the work you're doing. Well, but that's not a specific action. But if you look at it, the 10-10 principle, and then you gave him another tip about auditing your calendar, things like that are little small tips because they open the door for growth. And that's why I love this assessment so much. And I'm so excited for you to share it with everyone because I find it very valuable, at least from what I've gathered from it so far. So,
yeah. Thank you. No, that's really great to hear. Okay, so let's go to deliberate. I think in this one you also scored high because it's also 85%. And this one is, as I mentioned, it's about changing the mental patterns. And then if we look at neuroscience, you have this saying about neurons that wire together fire together, but it also works the other way. So if you stop wiring some neurons together, they will stop creating that connection. And that's why we can actually rewire something that we don't want to and, put a new thing inside that. And for you here, we have that key blocker about cognitive reframe, right? So negative thoughts that aren't being actively rewritten. So, probably based on some answers you gave, there might be some mental patterns in your head that you are working on, but maybe not, in a structured way, or maybe not very consciously. So, if I would work with someone on this in the coaching experience, we would be trying to identify maybe 1 or 2 mental blockers, and then assign small exercises on how to rewire them. And depending on what that would be, it could be different thing, because the most important thing is to put something small and not scary for you to practice it daily, but also something that's gonna be not just not scary, but also easy to to make it happen. So so you don't need a lot of time. It's not going to be like 2 hours exercise. It's more like 1 minute 10 seconds exercise or something to take on. So yeah, so it's a lot about also with negative thoughts. I have something I wanted to maybe add to that, because with negative thoughts, the science is also saying that any negative thought is only helpful for you for 1 second to trigger the reaction. Okay, there is something negative in my head. And then you have 2 most common strategies. You have one that is accept the situation and let it go. Because, something kind of happened, and then there is no point in overthinking that because you start creating negative mental loops. So you can accept and let it go, or go to the other one. It's converting it into a gift. Very often also, you just accept at the beginning and then start to think, okay, how then I can convert it into gift anyway. So that's something important. And then converting into a gift is also a way of changing your negative thoughts into something powerful. So let's say, even about you, that perfectionist thinking, okay, I know I'm a little bit too perfect. I know I want to do something. Okay, so if I'm aware of that, how I can convert it into positive? I'm already aware. Let's think about how to change it. Right? Just being perfectionist is good. It can work for me in some aspects. So you can select maybe areas. Okay, I want to be perfect in 1 to 3 areas, but because I realize I'm too perfect, then I'm gonna do something different in other areas of my life to train my brain to accept the imperfection.
Mm. Yeah, I love your concept of use a negative thought as a gift. I hadn't really thought about that, because in the self-leadership theory, self-talk, positive self-talk more specifically, is driven in. And as I've told my listeners before, when I was at my lowest state, the self-talk I had, I mean, I probably had 90% negative thoughts throughout a day. And it had nothing to do with perfectionism, never had to do anything. So I had to go down a path and eventually do it. But, subconsciously, the negative thoughts still exist. In fact, prior to this taping, I still have a lot of, I would call them negative thoughts about, podcasting and solo casting and speaking, because I'm like, well, I don't know if anyone wants to hear about this or whatever. Well, in reality, that's not true, right? First of all, it's untrue, because people do listen to this podcast and people do send me comments and all these things. So I know inherently it's not true, but subconsciously, I still need to do it. So I do see this, in comparing it with perfectionism, it is, I'm now going to look at it as a gift. It's nice to be a little hesitant, because you want to put out a good product and you want to help people. But yet at the same time, maybe the seeking the perfectionist and always, when I don't make that mark, being hard on myself is also inappropriate as well, because I'm on a path. And if I was great today, it would be abnormal, and everything is a growth process. So what can I learn from this experience? And then how can my thoughts do that? So I think that's very, and it's interesting, because of this one, I bet you if I had taken this test 5 years ago, this would have been one of my weakest areas, because the negative thoughts were so overwhelming. But it just gives hope to everyone that you can overcome that. And it is what's in between your ears, the way you think, the way you look, the way you accept situations. Yeah, fantastic analysis. And I definitely, it's like a horoscope, and you read it and you're like, oh yeah, that's me, but this really is me. And this isn't just coming from seeing it for the first time. I mean, this is years of work. And again, I like the tips you gave here, and you're spot on this one as well. So let's talk about the integrate category, because now my scores are going down a little bit, and this is where it's going to get fun for everybody.
Yeah. So integrate is 75%, and that one is around the confidence. And it might be a little bit linked with what you said, about you having negative thoughts about, showing up on the podcast and that speaking, because maybe there is a little bit of lack of self-confidence inside, right? Because, you have external proof that people are listening to that, people like it, right? Yet still, something is not at the 100% from your side that, okay, you believe in yourself, you're going to crush it. Yeah, so here we are talking a little bit about how to build that mental belief in yourself that is not really related on external world. So it's not going to be related on number of downloads that you have. That is not going to be related on the feedback or any other external validation. But you will know inside, okay, I'm good at it, or if I'm not good at it, I will be, right? I'm not that good at it yet, but I know what to do to kind of progress, or I'm willing to put a hard work and, elevate it to the next level. Or I treat it as a journey to learn and explore new stuff. And, I'm okay if something is not going to be perfect, because I'm learning every day on the experience on that. And here there are some growth tips related to, in your specific assessments, related to, how to maybe build that confidence. Like one of the common exercises is to trying to journal, write down lists why you are good at something, or what's the proof that you already have, whether it's external or internal. So yes, it can be the feedback you got, it can be the number of downloads, but it also can be the XYZ experience, how you went through your own life or your own challenges, or the education, like depending on the context. Those are like examples. But also, in your case, we have here about just also that internal work. So trying to relabel your approach and just being ready, so that internal language. And this is something that if I was, working with someone in coaching, I would encourage them to practice some visualization and that self-confidence. So, there are exercises where you can actually imagine your future self, super confident person that is showing up in maybe on podcast or on stage, and then how does it feel like, how do you look like what are other people saying, how are those reactions, how does it make you feel? So again, repetitive exercise of how you want to show up, and then just practicing it. It's the same what athletes are doing when they are doing the mental training. They are practicing their perfect shots, or whatever the sport is, like the perfect performance, but including the feelings and emotion. And again, there is science behind this, why it works, because they've been doing research, people practicing, like one of the most popular ones is about practicing piano. People who were actually doing, like playing piano, and other people who were just mentally rehearsing the moves of their fingers, both have improved the way they played. So you can do that, and you can also build your self-confidence by simply imagining how it feels like to be that person.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I've seen some research too that even says, like in like muscle building, even when you're not physically moving the weight or doing the exercise, if you think about that muscle group, then there is like evidence that shows that the muscle group will get bigger or it'll recover quicker or whatever. It's so really powerful. What you're presenting to everyone through this analysis is that the brain and your mind is so critical to your health, your well-being, your growth, your confidence, all the things we've talked about today. And it's really cool. And what I really like on one of your growth tips that you gave that came up for me is, write 3 reasons why you're already qualified for your next move. And I see that as a blocker to so many people, because I used an analogy in the book I wrote about, if someone wants to get in shape or become more athletic, they always compare themselves to like a LeBron James, or I don't know if that even reference, but the top of any sport, whatever it is, they look at that, but that's the wrong comparison, because you're comparing yourself to the ideal, and they're taking it probably to an extreme that you never will or will never need to. But if you can really simplify and say, why am I qualified today? Well, maybe you're qualified today by just going out and taking your first walk, or you've taken them 5 days in a row, or you've changed your eating habits. It's so critical. And this is I think it's a great segue into the next one, or either this is the next one about celebrating the wins. And this goes back to my general theme that I don't celebrate the achievements. I'm oftentimes find myself looking forward. And this whole mind shift is really, really cool. But I really like that, and I'm gonna start doing that. Is take that on the 3 things. Hey, why can I be here today? Well, because I've done X, Y, and Z, and now I'm preparing for ABC or whatever it is. I just really great analysis on that one. So thank you for explaining that one. So I might have gotten confused, but the next one is the transcend category.
Yes, and that one is 80%, and this is about boundaries. So about, like, for high achievers, very important to just set, okay, what is my non-negotiable, no-go, how I want to shape different aspects, and here for the blockers, we have highlighted for you the system you design. So about workflows that you might more rely on just doing the flow instead of trying to be very intentional and structuring what you do and having those boundaries. Okay, like how much time I want to dedicate to XYZ in life, and what would be that enough definition, what is the success, even like, again, let's take the podcast, how do you define your podcast being successful or no? What would mean that it is successful? People are starting different projects, and then, as you said, they're comparing themselves to superstars instead of comparing themselves to them maybe a few months earlier or a year earlier. I think this is the valid comparison. Just never compare yourself to other people, but compare yourself to you a year ago. And then define your enough and your success, so you will know then what does it mean to be successful? But coming back to the boundaries and to our category around transcend, so we have for you some growth tips. One of them is about that's interesting. Create a stop doing list. This is the one I like because we often focus on to-do list and goals, but what are our anti-goals or something that we should not do to keep growing?
Yeah, it's so ironic that this came up because prior to me taking this assessment, I started thinking, I was like, I boundaries was definitely a problem for me. And I know the next one is kind of was my weakest category, but in a lot of ways, I think it sets up for the next one and just this whole mental state I'm in. But yeah, I mean, always wanting to do something else and not creating these boundaries. I heard one time, and I've said it many times on the show, and that if you say yes to one thing, you say no to many things. But if you say no to one thing, you say no to one thing. And that's something that I'm still developing. Is it's very hard to not say yes. If someone needs something or there's an exciting opportunity, it's like, oh yeah, this is this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so this whole create a stop doing list is something that I've already started before this, but I've got to perfect it a little bit more. I like that you say subtraction is a powerful additive or addition, and that's really true because a lot of times you can do more with less. And because you show up, you're present, you're refreshed, you're whatever. And boundaries are definitely something. So yeah, this is spot on. This whole thing is spot on. I see the 1 day meeting free. Sometimes in the consulting world and what I do for a living, you don't get that opportunity. But take advantage of the days you do. And I've already kind of started this too. I take 1 day where I don't do any computer work. A Sabbath, if you will, in the religious contracts, just a day to be free because one, it gives me time to think about things. And it's really amazing what I found since I started doing this a few months ago. When I show up the next day, I'm much more energized. I've got much more clarity, more flow, more ability to carry on what I'm doing. So yeah, great tip. But let's go to my weakest area, embody. And for those of the people who know me the best that listen to this, that they're going to say, yeah, this defines me to a T. But I want to hear you, and then I'll share my thoughts on it.
Yeah, so we have here 65% result, right? The weakest one. And key blockers, integration rituals. Wins aren't integrated into your identity, so progress doesn't feel like progress. And joy design, joy is postponed to later, eroding sustainability and motivation. And then, that category is saying, again, about putting all the success together and making it sustainable. Because it's easy to be successful for a year or a period, right? But then make it sustainable. And I think that resonates with me a lot as well, because whenever I achieve something, I'm just thinking about the next thing, right? So, it's hard to celebrate, but it's good to force yourself to do so. And just, creating some kind of rules for your celebration, even small things, even those tiny celebration rituals. I think that's something that can be very powerful. And then you are enjoying the journey, not just the destination.
Yeah.
Because right now, without joy and without celebration, you're just going to be happy when you get somewhere.
Yeah. No, and it's so funny. I've had the privilege this semester to mentor a college student, and yesterday was his final day of classes, and so I sent him a note. I said, "Hey, take time to celebrate that. You're now done with university. You're done with that chapter of your life. Take time to celebrate it." And the irony of that is, like, I will tell people that, and I see the value, but it is something that I'm consciously working on to make myself celebrate a little more, because I've always been, even as a child, one of my report cards said, the problem with me is that I always want to know what's next. And I've been that way my whole life. It's like, okay, so this achievement, this certification, who cares? What's next? What's next? And a lot of that goes back to my deepest, darkest time of my life where I didn't like myself. And I always thought the next thing would make me like it. But as I realize now, like, taking small wins, and it's different for every single person, right? Some people really want, achievement, and they want to go have a party every time they do something big. That's never going to be me. But at the same time, now I just sit down for a second and just reflect and be like, wow, I did that. And like you said earlier, compare yourself to a year ago and go into the podcast. This time last year, I had 0 podcasts. That now at this one, this will be around 30 or so that I've put out. Well, that's a celebration. Every single one I do a celebration. Every comment I receive, every viewer I get is really a celebration because I know I'm moving in the right path. And it's very, even if it's family members or friends that are listening to it, it's so nice to make those achievements, and it does keep you going. You talk about it erodes sustainability and motivation. I don't. That is probably a longer conversation we don't want to get into today. I think motivation is an emotion and it's a lie. It has its place in life, but motivation fades a lot of times. But being truly grateful. And last month I did a thing where I wrote every day. I wrote a newsletter about something I was grateful for, and taking that time, that's kind of a win, right? That's a celebration. What are you thankful for? And one day it was as simple as this coffee mug that I'm holding up here for those listening can't see. It's just a normal coffee mug. There's nothing special about this, but you know what? Every day this thing is here for me. And that was a little win. So I'm learning that, and I do find that of all this assessment, this is where I need the most. But I'm talking too much. But anything else you want to add to this one?
I think the last pillar is kind of, combination of everything together. So it also is gonna sometimes show some elements. Okay, maybe you kind of mastered all the other pillars, but maybe there is one tiny step needed to put them all together and not to forget about anything. But yeah, it's all about enjoying that journey, as I said. And for high achievers, you mentioned about chasing one certification after another. This is the mental pattern we have, right? You just enjoy the dopamine that is coming from that chase. But what you get there, that's gone, right? So, creating celebration rituals can help you make it longer before you go to the next chase.
Yeah. Yeah. And your dopamine hits change too once you start finding this presence. Like, I'm not completely on this journey. I haven't reached the destination of full development in this area yet. But at the same time, like, the dopamine changes. It's not about what you do. It's for me now, it's more about the impact. It's a simple text from someone says, hey man, I heard this, and this interview or this got me thinking about this, and I made these changes in my life. Those I do take time to celebrate, and because that is what this is all about. And going back to what you said at the very beginning, if you let what's next and not celebrating take over your why, you then start outsourcing your why, and you lose who you are. And then you lose your ability to do whatever you set out to do to the beginning. And your mind is very confused, and your mind will actually start hindering you from any progress because it thinks you're unsafe or you're not doing what you said you were going to do. So I love your blend of both the mental and then the practical applications to all this. This is a really great program. And I applaud you for what you've done, because it's very scientific, but yet very simple at the same time for everyone to understand. So yeah, I like I said before, everyone, please go take this assessment. Just see, and then reach out to Dorota and see if this is something you want to explore, because you're helping people get over a lot of the things I think we don't understand. We don't understand as a society the power of the mind and how it can heal us, how it can inspire us, how it can make us better citizens. And I think if more of us tapped into our mental capability and refined it, the world might be a happier, healthier place, right?
Yeah. And I think it's especially, it's just getting more and more important with the amount of information and technology and everything around us. The better you understand that, and the better you can not control, but become aware of what's going on, then you can make better choices. I think this is all about, not really training yourself to be like a robot, but just being aware and then make a conscious decision. Okay, maybe I want to go that direction and I want to keep scrolling on my iPhone to get, to more short video form. But like, are you actually aware that you're doing that? That's the problem, we just kind of... the
It's
fingers keep,
self-awareness.
keep going.
Yeah. As long as you're self-aware and this is something you truly decide to do, because I know so many people, I've talked to many and I've done it myself. You start looking at things, and before you know it, 15 minutes, maybe an hour goes by, and then you wake up and you feel unfulfilled, or you not wake up, you stop doing it and you feel unfulfilled. And then you start feeling guilty. And then that guilt transcends into your whole day. And it prevents you from growing or learning or doing what you need to do. That leads to more procrastination. It leads to all these things, which gets us further away from our why. And keeping your why solid and protecting your why, let's say, is what you're doing through the brain studies and the coaching that you're doing. But it's also so critical for all of us. Just, I hope if anyone comes out of one thing today is control what you can control. And like you said, be self-aware of what you're doing. And this all goes into my self-leadership, not my self-leadership concept, but what this whole podcast is about is leading yourself. And that begins with every action, every thought, and every decision you make throughout the day. And I definitely think you can help people get to that. So is there any other final comments that you want to do? Anything that you want the audience to know, or any last minute summaries?
Maybe one thing for me, this year has been a year of curiosity. So what I'm always sharing with people is just encouragement to just be a little bit more curious about yourself. And just, kind of let yourself to what you said earlier about having the day without digitalization, right? Just like let your thoughts, just flow freely through your mind and be curious about what's happening, which directions they're going, or about any decision you're taking. Okay, like why, I've been thinking XYZ. Like, let's think a little bit about why behind this, and then be a little bit more curious about other people as well. That's my encouragement for everyone, because if you start asking questions, then you might just get answers. If you're not curious, then you will not get any answers.
Oh yeah, that is a beautiful summary. But yeah, be curious. Curious will teach you more about yourself. And I love what you said about observing others, because not only does that give you empathy, but it also changes your perspective, and it really helps you. I think having empathy for others allows you to have more empathy for yourself. And when you see these results, like we went over today, for me, now I'll observe other people and I'll have these conversations with others. If I see someone who celebrates their wins, let's say it's even beyond what I would think is appropriate for me. I want to know why they're doing that, because something there is driving them. What can I apply that to my life? And how can I become a better human because of what you're doing, what my neighbors are doing, what other people are doing? That is so beautiful. I love that curiosity. They say curiosity killed the cat, but we're not cats. So stay curious, everyone. And wow, it's a great conversation today. Like I said, I really appreciate what you're doing and what you're bringing forward. And again, if there's nothing else, we'll just leave it at stay curious. Think, protect your mind, go through this assessment though. Seriously, I know I've said it many times, but please go do it, because it'll show you so much. And then reach out for further help if you think you need it. But this time I will give you the last word, and then we'll close it out. Anything else after?
No, thank you so much for having me. It was a real pleasure. I'm glad you enjoyed the assessment and the results. And thank you for having me again.
No, I appreciate your time today. And for all those who are listening, thank you for tuning in. I hope you learned as much as I did and enjoyed this as much as I did. Until next time, I'm Bobby Shelton. Keep leading yourself. And today we learned, stay curious and find ways that you can take care of yourself so you can show up and help others. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful week.